Look at that. It's almost like I know how to start on time. Hello, everybody. Let me just send a little social media posting that this thing's live. But in the meantime, no, I'm done with that. Welcome to the Weekly Spinner Rack. I'm your host, Chris. Lovely to see everybody here. Looks like I've got a healthy bunch of people in the chat room. That's over here. This camera is over here. You're seeing me. I'm looking at a screen over here. So I'm going to see who's here. We've got Steve Sorensen, Armin Abdalian, Decam, Robert Weichel, Jim Mahfood, and he's saying that he liked the episode I did on the letters columns history. I pride myself on the fact that all of my creator-owned comics do indeed have a letters page in them. I love that stuff, Jim. That's awesome to hear. Let's see, we've got Daniel Karhunen from the faraway, fantastical land of Sweden. I've got Moritaka Ishida. Hello to Joe Dent and Clay and Target Dummy, Black Phoenix, Andrew Jefferson, Big Day Gave. I almost got that right. Big Gay Dave. Thomas Wolfenberger. Tony Michael. Lovely to see all you folks. I love to just give some shout-outs at the beginning. Kind of like the recognition people will get when they write in a letter to a comic book, right? Yes, I have another show called Comic Tropes, and my latest episode was on the history of letters pages, which aren't always in the back of every comic these days. Let's see. Does this one... We're at issue 3, and usually that's when a letters column will start for a book, but not in this one. Is there one in Firepower? Yes, it's called Roast Office. I'm positive. That's usually a 2-pager is what Kirkman does. Let's take a quick look here. These are the books that I'm going to be reviewing this week. Oh, just a 1-pager. Just a 1-pager. And then they've got like a 2-page thing with Robert and artist Chris Samnee talking about their creative process, which is cool. I do like that. That's an extra. Ed Piskor, he publishes fan art. Does he publish fan letters? No. He just publishes fan art, which is also very, very cool. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I would argue that like if you sent in artwork, that's probably more exciting. Devil's Reign. I mean, this is a limited series, so I wouldn't expect it to necessarily have a letters page, but let's double check the back here. Nope, no letters page. Radiant Red, that's only issue 2. That's not going to have one. Okay, that's all I'm reviewing this week. So what do I do on this show? I quickly review the comics that I have read in the past week, little mini reviews. Then I'm going to start drawing something and talking about the comic book news of the week and answering your questions. Wow, I've got an early super chat here. Let me turn my attention here and see what it says. Doing a hit and run, says Eric Heinrichs. I'll keep watching the video on demand tomorrow. Well, thank you. But just wanted to say that the Weekly Spinner Rack is always a highlight to my week. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. That's really, really appreciated. Hope everything's going well for you, Eric. That's super, super appreciated. Let me ask, before I even do the reviews, my latest episode of Comic Tropes was on letters columns. Of the people here in this chat room, you're obviously some pretty engaged people. I mean, you're watching a show like this live, you're commenting, you're fairly engaged. How many of you out there have written a letter to a comic, and how many of you have had a letter published in a comic? Because I definitely have. I've written letters to comics and had them published. I don't do it as much anymore, mostly because now I'm doing sort of YouTube, so I'm sort of busy doing that. But I am curious to hear from you how many people say that they've done letters. That's always interesting. Hello to a few other people who've shown up. We've got A-Man, Sean Ali, Bruce Diamond, Samuel, Zoe. Awesome. Undecided Toy Store says none. Okay, so you haven't written any letters. That's okay. Not everybody does. But I loved writing letters to comics. I think I had at least one published in Wizard, the Guide to Comics. That was an early one. I'm pretty sure I've had them published in G.I. Joe and Savage Dragon and a bunch of Kirkman books. Let's see. I've always wanted to write to Walking Dead, never tried though. I have done neither, okay. I had a letter published in Fell by Warren Ellis. He destroyed me with his joke response, okay. Got a letter published in No Mercy by Image. I've written letters, but none have been published. I had one printed in Astounding Wolfman. How much do you spend on comics a month? I'll answer that in a second, Alex. Interesting question. I've gotten a letter back from Dave Sim. Wow, that's engagement. I collect volumes rather than issues, so I've never looked at that. Okay. Are you going to be drawing today? I'm definitely going to be drawing. I'm excited. I missed a couple. This is going fast. I'm trying, folks. I'm trying to keep up. By the time I was at a point I had direct questions for creators, Twitter had come into view. Yep, totally get it. Steve Sorensen with a super generous super chat saying, came back from Fan Expo Philly. Is Fan Expo what Wizard World used to be? I think it is. Took a coworker to his first con and went at age 42. He was a Philly native, always wanted to go to a con but could not afford it. He had a blast and wants to go to the next one. That's great to hear. That's great to hear. I know I went to the Philly Wizard World once back in like the what would have been the the early 2000s, I guess. Has anyone ever won a no prize? Interesting question. Let's see. Somebody asked, how much do I spend on comics a week? I would say between $100 to $200 a week on comics. That's my budget. That's way higher than I would expect most people to spend. But, I am making a living off of discussing comics. I feel like it would be pretty hypocritical if I wasn't investing some of that money back into the field that I am profiting off of in a way. So, I always get, a good amount of comics, even if I'm not super interested in them. But also, I always get several back issues. And then I get some trades. I get some digital stuff that I don't always really talk about because it's just clunkier to sort of talk about that. But I spend between $100 to $200 every week, which is a fair amount. Yeah, it's part of my job, says Mandela Butterfly. That's what I think of it as. I do think of it as part of my job. It's, like paying for gas to get to work in a sense. Anyway, let's get into some quick reviews. Not too many to go through this week. I have... I was really on the fence with issue 1 and 2 of She-Hulk. I was like, am I going to get into this? I've liked She-Hulk in the past. I liked her John Byrne run when I was very young. I liked the Dan Slott run. I thought that was very funny. This one is a little bit more of a nice light drama. It's got some humor, but it's not silly humor. It's more character-based and situational-based. And, boy, do I find Jen really charming in this. So I guess the author is Rainbow Rowell, and I don't really know anything else about that writer right now. So if I was doing an episode on comic tropes, I'd have dug in and done some research. But I will say that the artwork is very engaging. The character is super likable. By issue 3, I think I'm going to add this to my pull list. So far, I've just been picking it up randomly. But I think I will add this to my pull list, as long as this creative team is intact. I wouldn't have thought that this would necessarily be the book that spoke to me, but I like it. The central mystery right now is about this character, Jack of Hearts. That's a character who's been in Marvel for quite a while, very powerful, has never had anything coming close to a definitive, defining run. I wouldn't say that you're going to find too many people that are hardcore Jack of Hearts fans. Sort of an interesting look, but kind of dated now. And they're finally getting into that. They're digging into it because Jack of Hearts exploded back during Bendis's Avengers run. He killed him off, basically. And he's come back, and he doesn't know how he came back. He doesn't seem to have full access to his powers. And we realize that there's an interesting sort of thing here. Everything about his history has always been explained to him by outside people. So, in a way, he can't really always trust that 100%. Like, Jen Walters is a lawyer. She-Hulk, she's a lawyer. So she approaches some things sometimes very clinically. And they're investigating, like, his history. And she's like, well, we don't know how you came back, but at the same time, like, what do we really know about your powers? What do we really know about your past? What do you know? Like, what is a fact? Not like an opinion or it's been told to you, like what is known as a fact. that's a kind of interesting way to approach it. It makes sense. It's smart and it's logical. But I find the characters charming. It's funny. This is fairly light reading, but I enjoy it. So, that does get a gentle recommendation. Let's do some gentle humor today, folks. All the jokes, there will be nothing offensive. We're just going to tell some good, old-fashioned dad jokes. I'm still picking up Firepower because, look, I'm super loyal to Robert Kirkman. I've known him since before he was a name, and I generally tend to like his big ideas. I can't claim that I adore Firepower. It's got cool moments, like this gigantic dragon has been released by bad guys and is absolutely decimating a huge eastern city. That's epic. That could be really cool and fun. The character himself is kind of like, what if Iron Fist got married and had two kids? That's kind of the premise. It's really not that much different than that. And when we do the family drama stuff, I feel like it's just not connecting with me enough. And I don't quite know why, because Robert has a wife and kids. Like, he should know this stuff, and it should feel real and honest in a way. But it feels very perfunctory when they're just sort of talking, going like, oh, I'm so stressed out. Like, this is overwhelming. There's a big dragon. He's like, I know it's tough, kiddo, but we're going to find our way through this together. It's just a little generic, that family drama to me. If I don't think Robert will ever hear this. I don't think any of his friends will hear this. But if you do, that would be my one critique, is let's try to like dig in and find some real conflict here, and maybe find a way to take some stuff from real life, because I'm just not quite feeling that family drama portion, and that's the big hook to this book, other than just a superhero against martial artists and dragons and stuff. You know, it's the fact that he has a family. So that stuff needs to be stronger, in my opinion. Some people in there saying Firepower is great. Here's the thing. Zero critiques about the artwork. Chris Samnee is masterful at this point. You know, he knows what he's doing. He's in complete control of characterization, panel-to-panel storytelling. There's really nothing that I could realistically critique about the artwork. There isn't. I like the artwork. That's a big part of why I do still have this on my pull list. And there's this interesting sort of new character coming in that's like this expert samurai that we don't know anything about. Okay, well, that's a little bit of a hook for the future. I do want to see what they do with the dragon. I'll tell you what, I really, 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 really wish I had gotten a variant cover of this. It just didn't come to my store, but Kirkman did get Kim Jung-gi to do variant covers for a few issues. Oh, I'm such a big fan of Master Kim Jung-gi. If you haven't seen his work yet, you've got to look him up. South Korean artist. Immaculate detail. And he draws it all from, like, his head. Like, there's no sort of laying out of, like, shapes or anything like that. He'll just draw somebody on a motorcycle, and the motorcycle will have very intricate detail and look right. And he tends to like to do a lot of big murals and stuff that will sometimes have the fisheye lens, where a lot of artists need to do very careful plotting to get a 5-point perspective. This guy can do it in his head somehow. He teaches a lot of online classes, so look him up if you're not familiar by any chance. I've met him twice and gotten a sketch and sketchbooks from him. A huge honor, in my opinion. I think that, like, Kim Jung-gi is incredible. I would have loved to have gotten his variant cover, but it didn't come to my store, so maybe someday down the road I can get it. Do I give this a recommendation? It really depends on how much you have liked Kirkman's stuff in the past. You know, he's got his own writing style. He's got big ideas. The dialogue, I don't always engage with it as much, but if you already like it, then you will continue to like this. So that's what I can say about that. Moving forward, we've got Ed Piskor's Red Room. I love Ed for the most part. I think he's a really, really talented, creative individual. He's got a great YouTube show with Jim Rugg called Cartoonist Kayfabe. I think that they do a lot of great analysis. No complaints or critiques about their show, that's for sure. They do a great show. Red Room, I get what they're going for here. It's Ed. That's also something impressive, though, about this, is that it's like, one person creating everything in this. He's trying to create something kind of pulpy and intentionally offensive. Let me acknowledge a super chat here from Andrew Jefferson. Isn't the white guy traveling to Asia to learn superpowers kind of outdated and at least a little racist? I'm pretty sure he is not white in Firepower. I'm pretty sure that the main guy is not a white guy. The dad. I'm pretty sure he's at least part Asian. So I don't think that, Robert fed into that trope. And I will say, if you read anything by Robert, the one thing he does do is subvert tropes a lot. That was Invincible's whole deal, was taking what looked on the surface to be, a traditional superhero story, and then he'd constantly flip ideas on their head. Maybe that's something that I'd like to see Ed do in Red Room, to be honest. It's interesting, but that is a related critique that I have, at least of this issue. It's all about, every issue is a standalone story about people that are torturing and killing people online for, Bitcoin. So it's dark. It's definitely a type of modern take on the old EC horror comics. Thanks for backing me up. A lot of people are saying that Firepower, he is Asian. So he's not a white guy. I compared it to Iron Fist because he is still American, and he goes to, this place to learn martial arts. He gets a power. So there is something similar there. Ed does some interesting stuff, creatively with this, but this particular issue, I kind of guessed the twist before it was about halfway, before even halfway, I guessed correctly what the twist of this particular story was, and that sort of cut its legs out from under it for me. It's fine. I can't claim that Red Room is my favorite thing that Ed has done. Not when he's done X-Men Grand Design and Hip Hop Family Trait. I think that those were a little deeper and stuff, but he's having fun with this. Good for him. It's connecting with a lot of people. Again, good for him. Red Room, I love horror, so I'm okay with this. I can't say that I love it. I can't. I like it. I like it as just, I like reading comics. I can't give this particular issue a 10 out of 10 or anything. How would I rate this single issue? I'd probably give it something like a 6 out of 10. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. It tells its story competently, clearly. The characters are well defined enough, but I feel like it's trying a little too hard to be offensive in a way. I don't think it should be this hard to do the idea of torturing and killing people already is pushing it. So to show it graphically, I'm really flipping through fast because the images are really, really, really gory. It's trying to be as violent as possible. And I think if it was a movie, I would actually be turned off by it. This is torture porn, but beyond what you'd get in a movie like, say, Hostel or something. It's beyond that. And I just find that nihilistic storytelling where good characters don't even have a chance to escape, I don't find that super interesting. I understand in a horror movie, good guys are going to die. But I want to like them. And I want to feel like they've got a chance if they're smart. But if they make a bad decision, that's it for them. It feels weird to say that because I can like some pretty trashy horror movies. The Friday the 13th movies, they're pretty trashy, but I kind of like them. I wouldn't say the characters in those are always likable, but sometimes they are. One or two. They usually have at least one or two characters that I kind of like and am rooting for. And some of them I know are disposable. But in Red Room, I haven't really been able to latch on to any good character that I want to see succeed. And I'm not rooting for the bad guys because they haven't gotten themselves to that iconic status that, say, a Jason Voorhees or a Freddy Krueger does, where I'm like, it's not that I want them to win in the end, but I am sort of watching to see how creative they are with their kills. Because it's not that real. You know, if it was real, I probably wouldn't be that into those movies. Yeah, it's beyond what Saw would show for violence. It's beyond that. I'm not totally against it either, though. I'm not. It sounds like I'm being very negative. I would say it's trying too hard for its idea. It's not a bad premise. The premise itself is kind of strong and relevant, and you could do some interesting stuff with it. And I do appreciate that each issue is its own story, with like a shared world, but like you get a full story. I do appreciate that. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Let me move on. I wish I had something that like I could pivot from saying something like I didn't love it to something where I'm like, but this is great. But I will say that for me, this Devil's Reign event sort of fizzled out. The whole premise was Kingpin. You know, he's the mayor of New York as compared to like a criminal boss. But of course he's still corrupt. He's been using the powers of this bad guy called Purple Man to influence people so that he could get voted in as mayor again. And Daredevil and the superheroes of New York know about it, so they've been trying to run Luke Cage against him and fighting a bunch of supervillains that are working for Kingpin. That are like... Kingpin basically put in the Superhuman Registration Act, but they call it the Anti-Vigilante Act. Okay idea, but it just sort of fizzled out at the end. It wasn't like Kingpin was almost like, done last issue, and now they've just got like, another sort of fight against Daredevil. Daredevil wins, but he won't like kill him or anything. And then like while Fisk is arrested, he talks to some politicians that are like, tell you what, we can get you out of this because we're so rich and we're going to have you run for president. And Fisk is just like, yeah, I don't work for anybody. I do appreciate that the characterization there is kept honest. And he just kills them and runs away. So we'll get Kingpin again someday, I guess. It means that it feels like everything was reset to status quo at the end of this. And sometimes Marvel Comics do that, and sometimes they give the illusion of that, and sometimes they do make a change. And I thought for some reason that this was going to change the status quo. Maybe it will for Luke Cage, because I guess Luke Cage will become the mayor now. So that could provide some interesting stories for Luke Cage. But I thought that this was a Daredevil book going in, and it... What does it change for Daredevil? This is where Marvel continuity has become way too bizarre. I once made an episode of Comic Tropes where I talked about how hilariously dumb it was that Stan Lee went on this prolonged story where Matt Murdock pretended to have a twin brother who could see. And there wasn't really much of a point to that. But Mike Murdock was supposedly his, sight-seeing twin brother who never really existed. Well, at some point, something cosmic happened, and Mike Murdock became real. And Kingpin has killed him in this series. There you go, with a little bit of a spoiler. But who cares? Because Mike Murdock was never really a real person. If somebody comes out of nowhere, like out of an idea, and some cosmic being is like, and now you are real, and then shortly into that, the person gets killed, I'm like, how do I care about that? That's like telling me, oh, this bad guy killed Winnie the Pooh. I'm like, well, I love Winnie the Pooh, but Winnie the Pooh ain't real. Anyway. Chip Zdarsky said on the Manga-Splaining podcast that it was supposed to be a Daredevil story, but editorial sort of forced him to make it into an event. Oh, I could see that making sense, James, because when I started reading this, I was getting the sense that Daredevil was going to be at the center of it, and it was going to maybe change his status quo a little bit. And then ultimately, it started to become a very unwieldy story with a lot of different characters stealing the focus away from the main plot. So maybe there was some editorial meddling. You know, the dialogue and characterizations are good and honest. I don't think that the characters act out of character. I think that the artwork is absolutely gorgeous, so I don't actually regret picking this up. I was not super familiar with Mark Checchetto's artwork. It's great. I love that sort of detailed but sketchy style. I do. There's a lot that I like about this. It's just that the story didn't really go anywhere too important, so it was, it fizzled out. It fizzled out. It started with an interesting premise. It didn't really go anywhere that's that important. Yes, sorry. Winnie the Pooh and Santa, they're not real, but every other fictional character is real. Here's the last new thing that I read this week, and then I'll get into drawing, because, you're still in top chat. Oh, okay. Sorry, folks. I'm doing top chat. Here's live chat. Shouldn't be a radical difference, but yeah. I always forget to do that. Radiant Red. Technically a spin-off of Radiant Black, but more just like some ideas that fit in that same world. Artwork by David Lafuente. Again, sometimes I get books because the art is great. What can I say? Comics are a visual medium. There are books, of course, that I get for good writers too. And I'm only going to stick with a book if both the writing and the art is good. But this is definitely really fun, energetic, pulpy, cool, action-packed artwork. Got a character with these powers, and she's always lived her life on the straight and narrow, but has a husband who she legit loves, but who has a gambling problem. They got into like a ton of debt, and but she has these superhero powers. So she robbed a couple banks, and now she's kind of gotten into bed with some criminals that are sort of blackmailing her. They're acting like they're dangling a carrot in front of her, but of course, really, they've got like dirt on her. It's cool to see a decent person, like someone we know should be decent, has just gotten in over their head, and now I want to see how she's going to be smart enough to get out of all of that. That's always a good underdog story. Give somebody you like a problem that's like, how are they possibly going to get out of this? Like, it seems like it's gone too far, but probably they will, and that's going to be the fun of seeing where this goes. I do give that a recommend. I always point out the sort of back issues that I picked up without going into too much detail. I found Atari Force #1. If you guys don't know, it's a good book. You wouldn't think it, right? Like, it was 1981 or something, maybe 82, based on not even really a video game, but a whole game console, the Atari. All that ended up meaning was it's a space opera story with a bunch of aliens. Artwork by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Anytime you could get any of his books at a good price, it's worth it. He's a master, just a master. Here's another master in a very different way. Carl Barks. If you could find any of his Duck comics, Carl Barks makes legit funny comics with good art. And I found this one, I would say that this is like about a 9.6 from the 50s. It wasn't that much because for some reason, not everybody is a huge fan of Carl Barks. But Carl Barks is awesome. I'll do an episode about Carl Barks someday. And I love the artwork of Jim Aparo on Batman. Jim Aparo was just the first artist that was on Batman when I first started reading. And so I saw a back issue with Catwoman. It was cheap. I was like, yep, fine. I'll check it out. Andrew Jefferson calls it right. He says Carl Barks is the good duck artist. There were a couple different artists drawing different Disney properties, and they didn't always get credited, but people would notice that like some of the art looked better, so they'd say like, oh, this is by the good duck artist. That was Carl Barks. Last thing I'm reading right now for a potential future episode, I'm rereading a bunch of Usagi Yojimbo by Stan Sakai. And if you don't know, it's a funny animal book, but it's also talking about like, a real period in Japanese history, towards the very end of the feudal system. And Usagi Yojimbo is also known as Miyamoto Usagi, and his life is based on real people. Stan Sakai is a great artist. There's a lot in common with the artwork of Sergio Aragonés, which is kind of funny because Sakai has always done the lettering for the Gru comics, but he kind of draws in a bit of a similar way too, where it's cartoony but like very detailed, well rendered. So anyway, I'm just rereading that. I can't wait to get to a storyline that was called the Grass Cutter Saga. It was top notch. So I want to talk about that in a future episode. So would love a video about the Donald Duck comics. I would like to do that. Let's see. I have a few Del Scrooge books. Nice. What's your opinion on the most consistent run on a comic book character? Do you mean across different creative teams, or just like one of the best runs on a character, period? Because those are two very different things. I'll put something like Walt Simonson's Thor run up there as like consistently fantastic from beginning to end. Since you live in the Seattle area, have you ever visited Ancient Comics? It's my favorite shop here in Washington. It's in Burien, not too far from Seattle. No, I don't think I've ever been to Ancient Comics. I don't think I know that one. Overall thoughts on CGC? It's fine if that's what you're into. I personally don't care too much about like grades and the value and slabbing something, just because I'll probably want to read it again. And you can't do that once it's slabbed. So, what am I drawing today? I'll just real quick point out, I like G.I. Joe. I'm drawing Storm Shadow versus Snake Eyes. So I have these little figures here to look at so that I can hopefully get their design more or less accurate. We shall see. But I just grew up at the right time that I love G.I. Joe, so every once in a while, I draw G.I. Joe. It almost makes sense. We should hop over to Burien sometime, says Chrissy. There's a cool arcade there, too. I'm down if you're down. Maybe we should go Sunday if things are open. Peter David's Hulk run was awesome, says Black Phoenix. Yeah, I agree. I like slabbing them to prevent aging. Yeah, I mean, I get why people do it. I don't personally have a lot of interest in doing that, but I totally get it. It's fine. I've got plenty of news to talk about. Comic book news. Hold on. Looks like my sister texted me. Oh. She's not here tonight. Darn, my sister's almost always here in the chat. It's a kind of a nice thing for us to connect on, but she went to her town hall meeting tonight, so I can understand that. That's important. Let me pick up some of the news of the week. Have any thoughts, hopes on where G.I. Joe Transformers might end up? My best guess is it's going to Kirkman's Skybound studio, but I don't know that for a fact. I think that's likely. We'll see. Okay. An old comic book, a Golden Age comic, sold this week at auction for $3.6 million. And just to be clear, there's only a very few comics that have sold for over $3 million. Amazing Fantasy number 15, first appearance of Spider-Man is one. Of course, Action Comics, there have been 2 sales that have gone for over $3 million with his book. That might be it. This was Captain America number 1. Captain America Comics number 1. By Joe Simon and Jack Kirby. It sold at Heritage Auctions in Dallas for $3.6 million. what's interesting about that to me is I've just seen some auctions for comics going for some really high prices in the last couple years, and so I looked it up, and that actually is a thing, but it's not just for comics. Collectibles in general, over the last 2 years, have been going for more and more. And the thinking is that during the pandemic, a lot more people are home a lot more, so they're engaged with their hobbies a bit more than they used to be as compared to, going out and socializing and stuff. So right now, just collecting stuff in general is at a real peak. But it makes sense that Captain America would go for something like that. It's a pretty important issue, pretty important set of creators. It would be cooler if the creators were the people making that money. But at least it sort of helps it cement its place in history. So I thought that was interesting. A lot of money. I remember as a kid, Action Comics was the only $1 million comic. Oh yeah, it took forever for these comics to go for that kind of money. What else? Hey Chris, so glad I could make the live show. Glad to have you here. Daniel Carhoonan pointing out it's a lot of dollars. Yep. Yeah, I'm drawing Snake Eyes versus Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe. Basically, two ninjas. The one in black is the good guy, and the one in white is the bad guy. Okay, so take it from there. And both have fairly straightforward costumes that aren't super complex or hard. So hopefully I should be able to do a halfway decent job on all of that. Let's see, Daniel says, even vintage toy prices have gone crazy during the last 2 years. What's the most paid for original comic book art? I don't know, Tent. It's a great question. I do know that in this past week, a piece that John Bogdanov drew in an issue of Superman for the death of Superman, he sold it for over $500,000. This, and good for him. That's a story I love to hear. When the creator gets the payout like that. I know some Todd McFarlane and Jim Lee artwork has sold for a lot in the past year. But as to like the most, I really don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look something like that up. I had the funniest thing this past week. I've got a couple things that I can tell you about, like just stuff that's gone on in my life. But I don't know what day of the week it was, but it was a few days ago. I just had a song in my head, but it wasn't a song I really knew. I just had the refrain going through my head, and I wasn't 100% sure if I had the lyrics right. I'm just thinking about it. I'm going, dun, 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 dun. And so I had to really sit down and think. And during my lunch break at my day job, I sat down and I thought, and I was like, okay, I think I know the refrain. So I type it in, and it says that it's this 1980s song by Pat Benatar. And I'm like, well, I wasn't listening to like the radio. I don't remember watching anything from the 80s. Like, how would that? And I listened to it on YouTube. I'm like, that's the song. I love it. Like, where? But I don't remember ever listening to that song in the past. But I'm like, how do I know this song? And I just started listening to it semi-regularly because I was like, yeah, we're running through the shadows of the night. But I'm also like wondering the whole time, like, why? Like, where did I come up with this thing? And after like 2 days of listening to it, all of a sudden it came back to me that there was a cover version of it briefly played on the TV show Picard on Paramount Plus. That's one of the Star Trek shows. One of the characters, like to distract people, like sang a song, but sort of sang it jazzy, not like the original. And I guess it was just somehow like just the refrain had stuck in the back of my head, even though when I was watching the episode, that didn't really grab me. It's so funny, and now I can't stop listening to that song. Fantastic Four 1 just sold for $1.5 million. Yeah, Shadows of the Night, Jerfy. It's kind of a banger of a song, to be honest. I popped right when you were tracing the butt, so right on time, baby. Thanks, Carrie. Yep. Hey, when you draw a guy, sometimes you gotta draw the butt. There's no way around it. And when I sing it like that, Chrissy always points this out. She goes, "Baby, you're a firework." And it is a little similar, so that is kind of funny. We're running through the shadows of the night. It's good. Favorite Star Trek series. You know what's still my favorite, Dogbeard? And I wasn't watching it when it was new, but I watched it like a few years later, like once it entered a streaming service. Deep Space Nine. And I will say that the first 2 seasons, little hit and miss, to be honest. Season 3 starts getting really good, and then from season 4 to the end, great show. Great show. Love it. Yeah, that's my favorite Star Trek series. Not necessarily my favorite characters or necessarily like my favorite single episode. Actually, it might have my favorite single episode. But, yeah, I just really liked it. I really liked it. Sometimes I like the idea of Star Trek more than the execution, but I like Star Trek. I didn't grow up a massive Star Trek fan. I didn't watch it a ton. Honestly, I didn't watch it. I didn't watch any Star Trek until whenever the last season of Next Generation was airing, and I caught a few episodes of that live, and I was like, oh, maybe I like Star Trek. So I sort of found it kind of late in a way. Like it had been out for a while. Hey, Lord Luke Lightbringer with a chat. He says, have you ever thought about making a video about all the types of kryptonite and their effects? I haven't, but that could be fun. That could be fun. Daniel says he's watched all of DS9. Yep, it's great. Dogbeards says his favorite episode of DS9 is where Sisko and his son build a ship together. The father-son relationship in DS9 isn't always the heart of the show, but it's a very important element to the characterization of the captain, and I'm pretty sure, like I'm thinking about this, and he's still, I think, the only captain of a show to really have family and to have that important relationship. And that single father responsibility versus his responsibility as a Starfleet officer is a really fascinating conflict. You know, he's got a lot of important responsibilities there. My favorite episode, I think, is the one where Sisko, he's, you know, the main guy, the captain and everything, he's caught in this anomaly. He seems to disappear, except and right in front of his son's eyes. And then, like, a few months later, he reappears. But after a couple days, he disappears again. And then he doesn't show up for, like, a year or two. And then he doesn't show up for several more years. And as this happens, like, his son realizes, like, sort of what's happening, and he devotes his entire life to becoming a scientist, even though that was not something he really ever had any interest in. His son always wanted to be a journalist. But in this episode, he devoted his life, at the exclusion of, like, a lot of, like, loss and heartbreak and stuff, to becoming a scientist to solve this problem. Because his father wasn't getting older. He would just appear, and to Sisko, it was like no time had passed. But, like, it was longer and longer intervals, and he was there for briefer and briefer windows. Anyway, like, his son, like, discovered that, like, they were sort of, like, tethered together, and, like, they were sort of, like, stretching out like a rubber band, getting further and further, but, like, pretty soon, like, you know, Jake would be dead, and he wouldn't get to see his father again. He's, like, now an old man, and he figured out that if he let himself die in that moment when his father was here, the band would snap, and he would get to go back to his original timeline, and he would get to grow up with a father. So he, like, as an old man, like, you know, takes, like, a sip of poison and lets himself die. It's so sad, but kind of beautiful, too. Like, because Sisko knows exactly what's happening. He's seen his son age before his eyes. He just tries to always be a present father and just say, like, who cares about my situation? I'm only here for a brief time. Tell me about your life. Like, I just need to hear everything. Let me be here for you. And when he gets back, he's just, like, so elated. Like, he's so sad about what his son had done, but he's there for him. And it's a beautiful episode with some Just fantastic performances. Just fantastic. You could definitely watch that if you've never watched any Star Trek before. It's a standalone episode. It just works beautifully. Works beautifully. Yeah, Tony Todd played the old Jake. Anyway, TNG is my favorite, but DS9 I'd have to call the technical best. Okay. Far Beyond the Stars was great, and the Cisco as a Time Ghost episode, you like you said, that was heartbreaking. Okay, a bunch of people have seen it. Nice. Yeah, I've rewatched that episode several times in my life. I really like it. I really do. Interesting question. Yeah, Star Trek's pretty cool. It's, there's so much Star Trek right now on Paramount Plus, and it's not all excellent. There are some problems with it. It's trying to be a little too actiony, it's sometimes a little too dumb for what it is, but I kind of still like it because it's Star Trek. But my favorite versions of Star Trek are when they're showing what humanity can be like at its best when they're working together to solve a problem. I love that kind of Star Trek. It made for very episodic television, but very good episodic television. By the way, it was crazy how many episodes a year they would make of those shows back in the day. They would make of DS9 something like 26 episodes a year. That's with like a 3-month hiatus for the summer. They would basically make nearly weekly episodes. I mean, just pumping them out. Just crazy. Just crazy. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about Season 3 of Picard. They've just decided, hey, you know what? Season 3 of Picard is the last season, and they're bringing back the entire Next Generation cast. It's just going to be a Next Generation season. I'm all in. I love that cast. Okay, here's a weird piece of news, folks. This week on social media, there has been a lot of discussion about how critics haven't necessarily been focused enough on the artists lately. It's interesting, because I grew up in the 90s grew up with 90s comics is all I mean to say, where, oh my god, like, it was, all you heard about was the artists. Image Comics was based on a bunch of artists starting their own company. It was, very rarely did you hear great things about the writers. But we do live in an age where the writer seems to guide the project a lot of the time. And a lot of comic book criticism can focus on what the story is doing and what the writer has done and sort of ignore the fact that it's a visual medium. That's been talked about a lot this week. Why has it been talked about so much this week? It all started with a post from Brian Hitch, an artist I very much admire. I've got an original piece of art by him. I've made an episode about how much I like his work. Brian Hitch said that there was a review about Batman's Grave, where, he drew the whole thing, inked like 9.5 of the issues for like a whole year. And it didn't mention the art at all. It only mentioned the story. And he was a little upset about that, which I could understand. Where did that review come from? Well, here's the funny thing. It wasn't really a dedicated review. It was a recommendation. It was like 3 paragraphs from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Yes, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, obviously fantastic basketball superstar in his day. Surprisingly funny actor in the movie Airplane, if you've never seen it. And he has I think, weekly newsletter where he recommends things, and one of them was Batman's Grave. I don't think of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as a comic book critic. So it is a little funny that all of this came from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Nevertheless, it is a conversation worth having. But it's just funny where this all started from. I would never have guessed that. Yeah, random, mad random. Yes, I know. You need to do a video on Amalgam? Maybe. Maybe. I didn't know he read comics. Well, apparently he does. What's your vector, Victor? Roger. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, former Bruce Lee disciple. Yes, famously was in the last footage of Bruce Lee's unfinished film, Game of Death. Because, I mean, what a visual that was. Like this huge, towering monster of a man, visually, against relatively tiny Bruce Lee. Did Jabbar... I don't think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar replied to this. Honestly, he may not even know that this was discussion that comic book folks were having on Twitter. Just because he read the book does not mean he's totally plugged into the stuff that's important to all of us. So, I don't think so. My dad says he doesn't pass the ball enough. I'm glad a bunch of you have seen Airplane. He's pretty funny in that. We got Clarence. What's Shaq's take on Batman's grave? Yeah, oh, there's so many ways I could go. What does Michael Jordan think about Watchmen? We really need to know before we can go too far. I don't know. Nevertheless, I do think that we are in an era where the writer is arguably getting, if not too much credit, certainly a lot of credit. And it's important to remember that it is a collaborative medium. It's a visual medium. It's really important to acknowledge the contributions of the artist. It's just wild to think that we're at a point where that needs to be said. Shaq is a Superman guy. Yeah, he played Steel. We'd rather all forget that. That was among the worst superhero movies. Sorry, Shaq. You probably know that already. I would hope he knows that. Shazam and Shaq Fu rule. Okay? I think you mean Kazam, Joe? Because Shaq was in Kazam, not Shazam. Watchmen? You mean the guy I buy my Rolexes from? Yeah, that's what I mean. Do you ever see a writer's script or notes getting a fraction of original art? No. Is that a lot of times where the idea starts for a book? Yeah, it usually will start with a writer. Sometimes the artist has the idea. Sometimes it's the same person. But you're right. Like, I don't know. It's just wild that we're at this point where we need to remind people to acknowledge the artist. You'd think it would go without saying, but it really doesn't seem to. I'm just going to ink in a little bit of shadow here on Storm Shadow. So I guess you could call this Kage. That's Japanese for shadow. And then I've got another piece of news. Folks, I usually have 6 pieces of news. I think this week I've got 7. Andrew Jefferson says, did you see the Moon Knight show doesn't thank Warren Ellis and Brian Woods in the credits, but does recognize Declan Shalvey and Greg Smallwood? No. I didn't see that. That's also pretty strange. That's really, really weird. Why would they do that, I wonder? Well, you know what? Look, wait, I don't even know who Brian Woods is, to be honest. What did Brian Woods write for Moon Knight? Because I don't know who Brian Woods is. off the top of my head. Warren Ellis, though, he wrote the stuff where Declan Shalvey created the Mr. Knight identity, and obviously that factored into episode 2. All right, look, you guys need more news, right? That's what keeps you going. That's what keeps you here. You kids, you love your news. All right, here's a fun one. Really fun if you live in the Denver, Colorado area. Because there is a entrepreneur named Josh Schmitz who is opening a new pizzeria in Denver, and it is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle themed. Yes, there will be New York style pizza by a New York chef. There will be drinks named after characters from the shows, like Bebop and Rocksteady are names of drinks as just a starting point. And there's going to be Ninja Turtles murals painted on the wall. Probably some comics will be there. And the name of it is Casey Jones, the name of the Turtles' loyal ally. Brian Wood did an arc of Moon Knight with Greg Smallwood after Ellis and Shalvey. Did he? I didn't read that one then, I don't think. If I did, I'm sort of forgetting it. Okay. Okay, yeah, Brian Wood did DMZ. DMZ and Local, I know. DMZ and Local, I know. So, but I was like trying to think of him in relation to Moon Knight, and it wasn't coming to me. Anyway, I don't know about you, but if I lived in the Denver, Colorado area, I would absolutely check out this place. Yeah, why not? I like Ninja Turtles. I like turtles. Will they serve TMNT cookies? Hey, who knows? Maybe they'll sell some of those old vanilla pudding pies. The sort of Hostess vanilla pudding pies that were Ninja Turtles branded. Sewer pies, they were called. Which, now that I say that out loud, is gross. Gross. Green Dye, Secret of the Ooze drink. You guys know, TMNT themed place sounds like Cowabunga. Will they serve? Yeah. I don't know. So, Casey Jones is the name of the place, and it's going to be opening in Denver, Colorado. If you like Ninja Turtles or you like pizza, maybe it's worth checking out. Maybe. Meow Nyan with a super chat saying, can finally say, tonight I dine on turtle soup. I was trying to do my best Shredder impression. I don't know if I did alright. I always heard that TMNT Hostess pies were disgusting, and seriously, they're green. Why weren't they mint flavored? I don't think a mint pie sounds good. I don't think anyone wants that. I don't know. Maybe somebody does. Today, I went to the DMV to get a title for my Thunderbird, which I mentioned I sold to my dad. Oh my god, did that take forever. It was like a parody. I was like, no, it can't really be taking this long. But it did. It took me like 2 hours waiting in line. Waiting in what looked like a short line, but did not act like a short line. A tequila drink with a Krang worm. You guys have some good ideas. I think you guys should all together combine to open a Ninja Turtles restaurant. Marvin Nation, no soup for you. Sorry, wrong show. There you go. Tonight I dine on turtle soup. No soup for you. All right. Who's ready for news piece number 4 already? Already. We are there. Well, let's test some comic book knowledge here. Does anyone know in DC Comics what is meant by the source? I'll explain just in case. The source is like this cosmic energy that also seems to be sentient. Darkseid is always trying to get access to it. It's behind this impenetrable wall. And it's literally where the powers, the source of powers, come from for the gods in the DC universe, and a few superheroes too, now that I say that. The source wall, or the source. Every once in a while there's been a couple stories where somebody's sort of like briefly gone into it, but it's mostly been unknown. That's its role. Well, in this week's issue of Green Lantern, number 12, Green Lantern John Stewart is going to go into the source, and it's sort of above the Speed Force Mandela Butterfly. And that's what George Lucas ripped off, right? Well, the source was created by Jack Kirby before Star Wars, so who knows? It's possible. The source is something John Stewart is going to see in issue 12 this week. And it will be portrayed as sentient, and this omnipotent sentience will be illustrated to look like Jack Kirby. I think that's fun. There was a Mark Waid issue of Fantastic Four where the Fantastic Four literally visited the afterlife, and God looked like Jack Kirby. And now DC will have something similar, where this power that's, a god above gods. For all intents and purposes, the source is God, and it will look like Jack Kirby. That might be fun to pick up just to see how that's visualized. That might be cool. Yeah, the Speed Force is an outgrowth of the source. Yep. That's awesome. It is kind of awesome. Jack Kirby is a super important fellow within comics, and it's important that we remember him and his many, many contributions. Just a creative force, unlike others, just super prolific. A lot to appreciate and admire about the work of Jack Kirby. If Kirby is the source, then wouldn't that connect the two company universes? I mean, it's however you want to interpret that, but sure. There's a lot of different ways they could have done that. They decided... But you know what, for this, I really do think it makes sense because he created the idea. So, in a way, it's true, like, if the source existed, what else could it be other than the guy who created it? Of course it's Jack Kirby. I love it. The source is God, and it will look like Jack Kirby. Yeah, oh, is that exactly what I said? That's cool. Thank you, Kale. If Kirby is the source, yeah. Oh, I read that. Supposedly, Roy Thomas and a young George Lucas were at a dinner party once and talked about the fourth world in an early Star Wars script. I never heard about that. That's interesting. Kingpin's been run dry as a foe for quite some time. There's only so much a respected businessman can get away with. I mean, they have him go away for a while, and then he builds himself back up. It's a good foil for somebody who, has that central conflict of Daredevil. He works best as a Daredevil villain as compared to originally, a Spider-Man villain. because Daredevil is a lawyer. You know, he upholds the law in his own way. But, you know, he's a vigilante as well. That's an interesting conflict. So, what's the flip side of that? Somebody that on paper looks like a respected member of society, but of course is not. So, it's a good foil. There's a reason why that dichotomy works so well between them so many times. And, you know, of course, he's sort of a default villain for guys like Punisher and Spider-Man, because they have to have a villain who that just is a criminal, you know, that runs a criminal empire. They just have to. But yeah. Let's see. What else do I have for news? Here's a weird one. I've got a visual for this one, folks. I've got a visual. There's a gentleman named Rick Offenberger. I think I said that right. I don't know who he is, but what's important is he's launched a Kickstarter for a particular comic that he has. It's called Sergeant Flag. And, you know, it's essentially one of these characters that looks a lot like Captain America. You know, this sort of ultra-patriotic American superhero. Okay. He hired Rob Liefeld to draw a cover, which Liefeld did. Still, okay, cool. Good way to get noticed. Liefeld always brings attention. And then people looked at this and started saying, wait a minute, this character, Sergeant Flag, literally looks exactly like a character from a J. Michael Straczynski comic called Rising Stars. And J. Michael Straczynski saw it and he was like, hey, that looks just like my character Patriot from my comic book, Rising Stars. And so he reached out, and apparently Rick redesigned the costume and had Liefeld redraw very slightly the cover. Let me show you these two characters side by side, Patriot and Sergeant Flag, because I don't know what they were thinking. All right, let's see how well this shows up on camera. I got to look at what you guys are seeing. Okay. On the left, this is Patriot from Rising Stars, the J. Michael Straczynski comic. You can see it's got the stars and stripes at an angle on one side, and then just the stars, and then the stripes angular for the rest of the body. Blue mask, angle, white top, star over the eye. Well, look at this character of Sergeant Flag. What do you see? Again, cut across the chest is the blue with the white stars. The cowl with the blue and the white, again, cut at an angle. A white star over the eye. And then the red stripes going across the body. It's like, that's way too close. To say nothing, yeah, like even the red gloves and stuff. I'm just like, there's different ways to interpret the flag. That is just, the star over the eye and where they put these red stripes, to me, is what just makes it the same. Yeah, there's different shoulder pads and a cape, but that's a super similarity in my opinion. Anyway, so what they did is they got rid of these red stripes and the white star over the eye. And I guess that was good enough for all parties involved. But move phone closer to you. Liefeld didn't design it. No, Liefeld didn't design it. He, just to be clear, don't know if I made it sound like he did. Liefeld did not design it. He was just hired to draw the cover. That's what got it attention and got people talking about it. So anyway, there's the original, and then this was the one that was going to be for the Kickstarter. And I don't know. To me, that looks the same. So I feel like J. Michael Straczynski was very understanding to like give them an opportunity to make some changes. They made some small changes and it's done. But wow, like that's the same. I mean, I don't think that's a coincidence. Like, it's so similar. I don't know. If it's a coincidence, like, wow. I mean, I know they're both based on the flag, but the star of the eye and where they bisected the line on the body are seems like a big coincidence to me. Anyway, it all ended well. Nobody's fighting anymore. I just thought it was interesting and worthy of, like, just sort of pointing out that these things happen sometimes. But all parties seem to be okay with where things are right now. So don't go hassling anybody. Let me make that clear. Just I don't think anybody is, still in the wrong. It's just a weird little story. I've got to head out. Thanks for doing these streams. They're always a highlight. Thank you so much for watching. How's Little Bean doing? Oh, that's really nice of you to say, Andrew. I think right now he's cuddling with my better half. He's very loyal to her. Very loyal. Which is good. It's good. We are literally like a year and a day from when I lost my last cat, so I've been definitely feeling that loss lately. It sucks. Little Bean is nice, but he's definitely mostly loyal to Chrissy. He sometimes will come over and see me, which I appreciate, because he's a good little guy. But I do miss having my own little pet that's, loyal to me and likes spending time with me. Anybody who's had a pet that's been, like, really loyal and loving knows what I'm talking about. But I'm glad we've got Little Bean. I am. I'm doing better with him than I do with no pet. I like having pets. Is anybody out there, like, not an animal person at all? Little Bean is stupendous. Good. I realized that a hero draped in a flag always looks amazing. I cite Captain Britain and Vindicator. Yeah, it's a good look. It's a flag is pretty iconic. It's intended to be iconic. So if you adapt that into a costume or something, it usually is going to work quite well. I'm going to switch pens real quick for something. You could get those sea monkeys. In college, because I couldn't really have a pet, I did actually have sea monkeys for a little while. Because you could still have like that, and it was something that I could sort of take care of and focus a little of my time and attention on. So I actually did have sea monkeys as a pet in college for a little while. And then when I got my first apartment after college, I got myself a betta fish. And he was a pretty happy guy. He made a lot of bubbles, and he ate a lot, so I called him Hammy Fat Ass, or just Hammy. He was a good fish. And then when I bought my first condo, that's when I got Milo and Chibi. I got 2 cats. My sister helped me pick them out because she knows a lot about pets, and they were great. They loved each other because I raised them to, like, just be very affectionate to each other, and I tried to make sure they always had the exact right amount of food and attention each, and so they would always cuddle together, and it was just really nice having 2 pets that loved each other so much. They really were good together. I didn't know you ever had sea monkeys. What were their names? I didn't name them. They're just a bunch of weird wiggly things. Ugh. You could get those sea monkeys. The only way no one would be an animal person is unless they're allergic to every animal. You say that, but our last president, not our current one, but our last president, I guess, hates animals. He never had any pets or anything. And so some people, I guess, just don't like pets. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I think pets make your life better. I know sometimes it doesn't fit into a lifestyle or a home, but yeah, I think pets are great. I almost forgot that Snake Eyes in this outfit wore suspenders, so I'm just sort of blocking that in with pencil so that I get that right. I was a bit like you, Chris. I didn't like dogs or anything until we got a really nice dog, and they changed my outlook on all animals. Yeah, that's awesome, Joe. That's really nice to hear. That says a lot about a person. I think it does. Narcissists don't like anything that isn't them. Oh, that's probably true. I've got more news. What do you think that was it for news? Folks, come on, you got to know me better than that. There is a manga that I enjoy reading that was introduced to me through my live streams. One of my viewers suggested it to me. It was called My Hero Academia, and I do like it quite a bit. It reminds me in some ways of 1980s New Mutants by Marvel. Anyway, it's a book I like. I was surprised to learn this. I guess it was announced a while ago, but I didn't pick it up at the time. But the creator, Kohei Horikoshi, has announced that it will be ending within a year. Probably like right around a year from now. So first of all, I was a little surprised to hear about that, but I came across it because he posted that he's now thinking of what to do as his next manga, and he's expressed interest, I should say, in doing horror. Okay. Let's see where it goes. I could get down with that, because while My Hero Academia is kind of mostly just like an action adventure and everything, some of the villains in it are pretty horrific in a way. They look truly monstrous, which helps sort of elevate the threat and all. But yeah, I'd be curious if Horikoshi wanted to do horror next. And there's a little bit of a gap in like fantasy horror ever since Berserk has gone away. So I say a little bit. I mean, I guess Jujutsu Kaisen is super popular right now, and Tokyo Ghoul. So I guess there actually are a couple horror stories out there that are popular. But I'm not reading them, I have to admit. So I don't know. It's good to stretch your legs creatively. Yes. That's one thing I think manga is better than comics. They end and the creators move on. Yeah. Snake Eyes should also have big glasses and hold a sign that says, "Did I do that?" I like animals, just not in my house. Oh, okay. Well, as long as you like them, Keith. I've always grown up with dogs. Don't know what I'd do without at least one in the house. I think I'd like to have a dog. We'll see. That's a lot of responsibility. A little more than a cat, I would have to say, but I think I would like one. One dog, please. Is that how it works? Folks, we're running with the shadows of the night. So baby, take my hand, you'll be all right. Surrender all your dreams to me. They'll come true in the end. Hopefully I've planted that germ of a song in your head. Now you're going to have to look it up and listen to it as much as I have. They'll come true in the end. I can't sing. I can't carry a tune, but I try anyway. Let's see. Go to the animal shelter? Yeah. I will at some point. What else do we have for news? That was 6 pieces of news. That was my legally obligated amount of news. But I had one more. But it's not really news yet. Let me explain. There was a absolutely massive merger this week. Discovery and Warner Brothers were already two gigantic companies. Well, they merged. Wow. Warner Brothers, you probably know, but just in case you don't, owns DC Comics among its many subsidiaries. So now they're like a really tiny fish within an even more massive organization. Now, I don't think that they're going to go anywhere or anything. They still have their value. But I won't be surprised if we hear some shakeups in the near future. Because, there's going to definitely be some different executives in charge. And some of them will, like, at some point inevitably turn their eyes to the fact that they have DC Comics, or that they could at least make movies based on DC Comics. And I just have to imagine some things will get shifted as the result of some, newly installed executives wanting to sort of exert their power. I'm not even necessarily saying that that's a bad thing, and I don't know what those changes would be. But this is a massive, massive company. Like, it's just hard to overstate how big it is at this point. It's humongous. And so I do think that will, lead to some changes. Can't wait for Batman, Superman, Shark Week. King Shark is coming to Shark Week. You guys are good at synergy. And here I thought they wanted DC to focus on the gamer crowd. Oh my god, how embarrassing was that Batman FaZe Clan comic book last week? Not this past week, but the week before. That thing was a total cringe fest. I almost made an episode about it, but I'd sort of been making episodes about some sort of funny bad comics like Team America lately, and it was just time to change it up. I didn't want to become too stale, just be the guy that look at this bad comic this week. That gets old, to me anyway. So I didn't cover it, but wow. It's basic Disney. Disney isn't nearly as big, actually. Disney is a big company, but Disney is not on the same scale as Warner Brothers, and certainly not on the same scale as now Warner Brothers Discovery. They're way bigger. They're way, way bigger. Disney has a lot of brand recognition, and it does have a lot, TV stations and characters, and yeah, they own Marvel and Star Wars and stuff, but trust me, in terms of the companies that they own and stuff like that, the Warner Discovery is just way bigger. They've got telecommunications and stuff like that. They just got everything. It's insane. It's insane how big it is. Oh, I know what I wanted to talk about. I saw a movie a few days ago, and I don't usually do much in the way of movie reviews, obviously, but this isn't quite a review. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I do want to say I strongly recommend this movie. How good was it? It was just one of the best movies I have seen in decades. It was so well done. For instance, as a point of comparison before I talk about this movie, I saw the last Spider-Man movie, and I thought that was a lot of fun. That was a good movie, It had a lot of heart. It was well made. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I give it a recommendation. But sometimes there are movies that are iconic. They're going to last. They're going to stand the test of time, in a different way. Maybe that one is good comfort food that I will come back to, the Spider-Man one. But some movies, for instance, I'll be and they're not always seen as perfect when they came out, but they grow to that status. I'm talking something like Casablanca, Back to the Future, Mad Max Fury Road. Like, I look at those and I'm like, that is great filmmaking. It makes you feel something. It goes in unexpected directions. It gives you memorable visuals, memorable characters. You know, there's some that just like have everything clicks somehow. And sometimes it's an accident to how well it clicks, but that's an example. I would categorize this movie that I saw in there. I haven't laughed this hard in forever. Like, whenever I last laughed at this, had to be some sort of a comedy when I was like younger or something. They don't really make big comedies anymore for the movies, in my opinion. Like, maybe something like when I was younger, I think I laughed really hard at maybe Something About Mary. It's just a movie that did give me some big belly laughs at the time. This movie had me laughing so hard at least 5 different times. Like, so hard I could barely breathe. Like, I was laughing so hard. It made me, like, tear up towards the end because the emotions behind it were so real. And I felt them, and I cared about these characters. And the visuals have some iconic shots that you're like, oh my god, that's burned into my retinas. I will always be able to think of that moment because it's so beautiful. Of course, I'm talking about Morbius. No, I am not talking about Morbius. I'm talking about Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It's not just some indie film. It's got some amazing martial arts by the guys from the YouTube channel Martial Club, who I've been a fan of for years. It's wonderful to see them getting a big break like this. It's directed by the Daniels, who have a very unique... It's 2 guys. They each have the name Daniel. Like, one's the last name, one's the first name, but they go by Daniels as a directing unit. They did Swiss Army Man. Just totally bonkers. You'd never seen anything like it. I think they did the music video for Turn Down for What, if I'm remembering correctly, which is a great visual. Yeah, this is the Michelle Yeoh movie. And let me just say, I'm not going to spoil anything, by the way. I'm just talking about what that I liked it, okay? Career best performances across the board. You've seen James Hong in something, like, tons of stuff, like, you know, Big Trouble in Little China or something. You know, he's iconic in that. Michelle Yeoh has been in so many good movies, you know? We know that she can do drama. We know that she can do action. She's done tons of great action movie, from, you know, James Bond to great movies in Hong Kong, like Super Cop, things like that. She's great at action. She's great at drama. And we know that she's good at comedy. If you've seen her in Crazy Rich Asians, she's both scary and really, really funny in this. In this movie, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, Michelle Yeoh is both hilarious and heartbreaking. Best performance I've ever seen by her. She just the perfect material for her. It just suited her so damn well. Folks, these days I don't really make a point of buying movies much anymore. It just isn't much of a thing because almost everything goes on streaming. But this is one that I'm going to want to be able to pull up whenever the mood strikes me, and I don't want to like have to like be beholden to the whims of a streaming service. So this is one I definitely plan on buying the second it becomes available. I definitely hope to see it in the theaters a second time. I can't say enough good things about it, and I know it sounds like I'm probably building it up too much. It isn't any one thing. It does have fantastic action, but just to set expectations, it is not wall-to-wall action like, say, Raiders of the Lost Ark or Mad Max Fury Road or Drunken Master 2. It isn't that wall-to-wall action. It has action scenes in it that are fantastic. In the final act, it's much more of a drama. But it's earned that by that point. You care about these characters and where they will go. Let's see. I have a minor criticism about it being slightly less tight than it could have been. Possibly for that third act, possibly, but it ends on such a note that I loved that I really can't fault it too much. Maybe I will on repeated viewings. You know, maybe I'll start finding some things I can nitpick. All I can say is I had a fantastic time at that. Oh, I haven't had that good a time at a movie in many years. It really stood out and surprised me. And so the less I say about it, the more it could probably surprise you if you listen to me and go out and see it. All I can say is I recommend it. I hope that me talking it up like this doesn't build it up in your mind so that you're like, you go in with some sort of expectation. You know, that's the only thing I worry about. But I think it can hold... I think it can stand up to that scrutiny because it was just so well done. The themes, because that won't spoil anything, the themes are just about being overwhelmed by all of your responsibilities and family and obligations and stuff, and feeling like you aren't at your true potential. Like you're like, you know what, I feel like I should be able to be better than whatever I am if I just changed this or that. Yeah, it is a multiverse movie, Mandela. It takes a while to understand the rules, but they do set them up eventually, and it makes sense. Like, the rules make sense. It just does take a while to explain all the rules. It's great. It's just something special. In my opinion, it's special, so it is worth mentioning, because I don't think that you'll be disappointed just because I'm giving it a positive recommendation. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It probably isn't for everybody, I will admit that. So there's probably some people out there that are like, that was too weird for me. If something can be too weird for you, maybe this wouldn't work. But I liked it because I didn't know where it would go next. It surprised me so many times. Meow Nian with a super chat saying, here's a fun fact. I'm getting ready for some fun. Yo was in a kung fu superhero film called The Heroic Trio with Maggie Cheung. Yeah, I love that movie. I think she played a character literally named Wonder Woman. It depends on the translation, but yes. It's fun and has kind of Birds of Prey vibes. Heroic Trio is great. Yeah, Heroic Trio is great. Who was the third one? It was because it was Michelle Yeoh, Maggie Cheung, and there was somebody else from that. I want to say Anita Mui? She was also in a bunch of Jackie Chan movies at the time. It was Anita something. It's been a long time. That movie came out in the early 90s, I think. So it's been a long time since I've seen it. It's interesting, Black Phoenix, that you point this out. You say, that movie reminds me of Jet Li's The One. Interesting related fact here. The male lead in this movie is Ke Huy Quan. Anita Mui. I did say it right. Good. I'm glad I remembered her, because she was also great. You would remember Ke Huy Quan from Short Round in Temple of Doom, or Data in The Goonies. He was a child actor in the 80s. He did continue to work for quite a while. He worked in China a bunch, because he speaks fluent Mandarin. So he worked, and then he started phasing himself out of acting, and he became a fight and stunt choreographer. He had started studying Taekwondo when he was just a kid for I think the Indiana Jones movie, and he took it pretty seriously, which he finally gets to show off in this movie a little bit. But he worked as an assistant fight choreographer on X-Men, the first X-Men, and on Jet Li's movie The One. Yeah. Short Round, yeah. So he did that for a little while. He worked doing fights and stunts and stuff like that. And then he just sort of felt like there weren't many roles coming his way, and he opted to retire from acting for a while, for almost 10 years. Until that movie, Crazy Rich Asians, came out, and then he said, you know what, I'm going to give it another go, because there seems to be an audience for movies with Asian leads. It was getting hard for him to get those roles. Also, being a child actor couldn't have made it easy. But boy, it's like he hasn't lost a step. He's incredible in this movie. He's incredible. So I'm happy for him. And apparently at one point this movie was designed to star Jackie Chan before the directors who also wrote it and stuff were like, no, you know what? I think I think it would have more of an emotional impact if this was the wife in a family as compared to the husband. And I think that that was probably the right choice because, yes, we know Michelle Yeoh as an action star, but Jackie Chan, we would still be expecting him to be great at Kung Fu at a certain point in the movie. Whereas with Michelle Yeoh, you're not necessarily expecting that same thing out of her because she has done other non-action roles, a lot more. So I think it just works more. There's a little less in terms of expectations there. Aquafina was also at one point going to play her daughter. That probably still could have worked great, but I guess she got busy and had to bow out. I don't remember the name of the actress who does play the daughter right now, but it's an important role. Like, the whole family is very important, and she did great. I think she's more of a stage actress, but she did great. Enough. I think I've talked it up enough. I liked it. Oh, you did, Chris? Yeah, believe it or not. I liked it a little bit. Obviously not comic book related, but it is science fiction and action and stuff. Yeah. I just wish Chow Yun-fat made it big here. I do too. Chow Yun-fat is fantastic. Hard Boiled is like my all-time favorite action movie, I think. I don't know. It's really, really cool. I just like it a lot. It works for me. What the heck? I am trying to recommend a movie, but my message isn't going through. I'm not blocking anything, man. I'm not sure what's happening. If you're posting a link, it might not go through, but anything else should work, unless it's got a word that would be blocked by YouTube because it's offensive. But I've never seen you act inappropriately, so I wouldn't expect that. Yeah, Michelle Yeoh in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. What a career she's had, you know? And she's something like 59, I think, now, which is older. So to get such a fantastic, juicy role... Oh, happy for her. She was also very good in Star Trek Discovery. I think they started to rely on that character a little too much at a certain point, but she was very good. Let's see. Ever hear the story that Snake Eyes was created because the toy line ran out of money? I've heard that rumor, but I'm not sure if it's true. I think what happened was, like, there is truth to the fact that when Hasbro was making the G.I. Joe line, they intentionally decided that one of the characters would sort of be a budget saver. They were making 13 figures, and they said to themselves, if we could make one of the characters have no extra paint applications, if it could all be one color, that would definitely save a lot of money that we could use in tooling and color applications for some of the other characters in this 13-figure line. So he definitely was intentionally designed as a budget saver, but I don't know that I've ever heard that it was because they were running out of money. I've never heard that. Chow Yun-fat was in that Dragon Ball Evolution movie. Well, sometimes actors make mistakes in what they choose. Nobody intends to make a bad movie, but yeah. I've never seen that, but that's because I don't really know Dragon Ball, so I never had much interest in seeing that one. But I hear it's pretty bad. Well, that's it for news. I went through all the news that I can use. Hopefully some of it was interesting or relevant. Tell you what, who out there has been to a comic convention in the last few months? I'd be curious. Things are opening up. but not everybody's comfortable going to things. Totally understand and respect that. But around here, like, the numbers in my area where I live are pretty darn good. Like, and we're seeing a lot of positive news about, like, like, there is a new variant for the pandemic, but they're saying that while it's more contagious, it's also weaker. And so hopefully we're trending in a direction like that. Has anybody gone to like a any sort of a convention or get together, anything big like that? If so, I always love hearing those kinds of stories, hearing what you did. The follow-up between John Woo and Chui Hark is pretty interesting. Yeah, that's too bad, isn't it? I've never been to a comic convention. You've never been to one, Joe? Boy, I think they can be a lot of fun. I recommend going to see your favorite creators. Let's see. Steve Sorensen says, I think one day you should dig into Akira Toriyama. I know he's super influential, and I know Dragon Ball is very popular, so you're probably right that I owe it a shot. I've only seen clips, and the animation just looks so limited and basic that I've never been attracted to watching anything Dragon Ball. It just doesn't look that good to me, but there must be something there because I totally understand that it is popular. I get that. I don't know. It just looks so cheap and repetitive to me. You guys are probably getting like mad hearing me say something like that, but that's my observation without having ever watched it. I don't know. Alright, Snake Eyes, let's get you some more deep blacks in here. Let's see. Oh, I missed a couple things I think about conventions. I'm sorry, folks. Artist Alley is definitely something I would end up spending a significant amount of my time if I go to a con. Yeah, I love finding that passion between stuff. You should watch the original Dragon Ball. It's hilarious. Huh. Okay. It was my first time. Other vendors said the numbers were as good as past ones. Didn't know which one you were talking about there. Sorry, Reverend Tate. Where are your cards plus whack old bubblegum? Yeah, tell you what, like, that was really one of the worst things I've ever tasted. I do have old, like, here's a 1989 one with some gum in there, but to get me to, like, put that in my mouth, I'm not just going to do that for, like, a super chat or anything. I'll tell you what, like, if somebody wants to do something crazy like a $50 super chat or above, I'll try to eat a piece of gum. But it's going to be so gross that I'm not going to enjoy it, so I don't want to do that for just like $1 or $2. It's just so awful. It's just so awful. I'll do it for like $50. It might get me sick, that's the thing. The original Dragon Ball seems like it'd be up your alley. Really? Interesting. The original Dragon Ball stories are better than the adult Goku ones. Everybody's saying that a lot of the same stuff. He was already rich when he released Dragon Ball in the 80s. Okay. I think you should read it from the beginning, at Dragon Ball. While shonen protagonists were all 80s action movie stars, Goku was a kid, and the art is simple but easy on the eyes. Save me the gum, I'll eat it. If you have COVID concerns with dense lines, the cons are dense. Well, I will say that, like, every time I've gone to a Comic-Con, I have at least gotten a little bit of con crud. You know, you get, like, a little sick from some of that stuff. So... yeah, I'd have a concern these days that I would still get sick. I would definitely still have that concern. I might just always wear a mask to a convention, even if it's not required at this point. I just feel like that might be a good idea. But we'll see. What if we collectively raised $50? Sure. So, but then you'll feel bad if you contributed, like, say, $10 and then, like, it falls short by $5. Like, if people donated $45, I'd feel bad. So, I'm just trying to set, like, an arbitrarily high amount because, I'll be honest, I did that, obviously, in a previous episode, and it was legit gross. It was really, really bad. I see the humor in it, and I would be willing to do it for a cuckoo amount of money, but I didn't think anybody would do it. Adam S. Messenger says, I do want to see you eat the Batman gum. I guess I did just promise it. I didn't think anyone would do that. But okay, Adam. You're a jerk. I should have set a higher amount. That's okay. 1989. The gum is stuck to the card. Hold on. Ugh. Joe Dent. 4 pounds. Gum time. Yes, I'm going to eat it. Let's just see what these cards are. I can't even tell, but I guess that's like the top of Batman's head. We've got City Hall Massacre, Hero and the Horror, The Joker's Lair, Batwing Concept. That's kind of cool, actually. Outside City Hall. Boring. No, I'm melting. That looks cool. Steve Sorensen with $2. Eat the gum, chum. I'm going to. A Daring Escape, Fiend or Mad Vigilante, and is it Halloween? All right. I don't even have water down here. Oh, okay. I do have some water back there. I have some water back there because this is gonna be gross. There's no smell to it, and it is stiff. It is really stiff. It has a little bit of the color from the card that it was stuck to. I'm sort of trying to scrape some of that off. Oh, what's it matter? All right. Ah! It's hard. It's just breaking into tiny pieces. It's not chewy. I can't taste it yet. Ah! Ah! Oh! Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Hold on. Ah! I have to spit it out. Ugh. Oh! Oh, what does it taste like? It tastes like, it tastes like what I think carpet tastes like or something. Oh! Oh! It took a while to taste it. Oh, it's so bad. I chewed this one longer than the last one, so it's stuck in my teeth. Hold on. This is so gross. Oh! Oh, there's little bits stuck in my teeth because it all, like, broke up into tiny little granules. Ah! Oh, that is foul. It tastes like stale garbage. It tastes like, I don't know, like old socks or something like that. Ugh. Oh, it tastes like cardboard. I'm not putting another piece in my mouth. I ate as much as I could. Oh, give me a sec to recover, folks. I'm not exaggerating. I can't describe how bad it was. Are you allowed to taste carpet on YouTube? Ugh. Oh my god, it's like was like eating it, and it's like all on my right side of my mouth, like my cheek. My cheek just sort of tastes like this moldy cardboard. It tastes like mold. Maybe that's what it is. It's like a mold or something. It just, or like when you smell mildew in like a bad bathroom or something. That's what it tastes like. Oh my God, that's so much worse than I honestly expected it to be. Good Lord. I hope I don't get sick from that. Oh. Nobody do that. I don't recommend it. I'm going to have to drink that water again. It's not leaving my mouth. It's legit staying in my mouth. Imagine if you could eat something you'd love, like, a slice of pizza or something like that, and the taste stayed in your mouth for a while. What a treat. Of course, it's something bad. Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Pierce. Welcome to Jackass. Might want to get some mouthwash. I'll have some after the show. Oh, so bad. There's no food I can really compare that to. It doesn't taste like gum anymore. I will tell you that. It didn't even really taste sweet. It didn't have much of a sugary taste to it. It maybe a tiny bit of fake sugar hint, but it wasn't necessarily sweet. It just tasted like strong, but like something like a bad smell, but it was a taste. I can't compare it to another food. There's no food that tastes like that. Bathroom mildew, yeah. Better than ranch dressing soda. No, and I hated the ranch dressing soda, but at least that was almost sort of like a buttery sweetness that I could explain. I'm like, okay, you've heard of this or that, but this, there's nothing that I can say that it tastes like. I can't say like, oh, this tastes like XYZ seafood or something. Oh. I can't ever do that again. That was not good for me. It just tasted so artificial. So artificial. Like, what was in that? I wonder if it says on the wrapper what was in it. Let me see. Hold on 2 seconds. I'm moving the old cards out of the way. Let's see if this says what was in the... Oh, okay. Here it is. Dextrose, corn syrup, gum base, softeners. Whatever softeners they used weren't good enough. Natural and artificial flavors, artificial colors, and BHT to maintain freshness. Well, I guess BHT only lasts so long, whatever that is. Huh. Corn syrup, dextrose, BHT. I don't know what that is. It doesn't seem to list anything that's like a chemical where I'd be like, oh, I don't know what that is. Adam, was that worth it to you? It just stopped the show completely. I can't do anything right now for a minute. I hope that was worth it for you. Oh, that was so bad. I still have a taste in my mouth. Jerfy, thank you for the extra super chat. Maybe that'll cover my hospital bills. Corn syrup, so it was a vegetable. It tasted like nothing natural at all. It didn't taste like anything natural. At this point, it's just plastic. I wonder, I'd need a chemist to tell me What was that I literally just ate? Because it didn't taste like food. It literally tasted like I was eating something like you just said there, Marvin Nation. Like, did it transform into something closer to plastic? Butylated hydroxytoluene. Yeah, that's probably what I ate. Warner Brothers 1989 Batman Gumtree made me violently ill. Yeah, I hear that this merger just went through with Warner Brothers and Discovery, but I want you all to know that they just got me very sick. I ate a piece of their gum, and I felt like I was physically attacked. I wouldn't mind being overdraft, but it was on my girlfriend's card, and she's about to murder me. Good. Fob Watchful says, I watched your Comic Tropes show about the history of comic book letters pages. Great job. Who did the voice of Stan Lee? Who did do the voice of Stan Lee? That sounded very accurate, didn't it? Well, face front, true believer, because guess what? You're looking at him. Yes, it's true. The voice came from yours truly. That's my Stan Lee impression that was in that episode. I've always enjoyed doing a silly Stan Lee impression. I know it doesn't necessarily sound quite like him, but hopefully I get the cadence right. Nuff said, Excelsior! There's a time when every man needs to look at his comics and say, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could do that for Stan, for a pittance of a price. Yes, that would be my dream come true. Oh, Chrissy, I thought you were making up the BHT thing, but you really looked it up. It's an organic compound, chemically a derivative of phenol, that is useful for its antioxidant properties. Yo, do a good Stan Lee voice. Okay, I'll do my best. Great Stan Lee. Yes, you did it very well. Thank you. Thank you. One of my very early Comic Tropes episode took a look at like Stan Lee's writing style, and I did a split screen thing where I met Stan Lee, and that was me doing an impression back then too. That was fun for me, though, doing that. I do it with all the respect I can have. No ill will. Just doing the best I can. You know what it was? I grew up watching some Marvel cartoons before I even read the comics, and Stan Lee was a narrator for them. Like, he'd be like, sometimes people come across lots of trouble, and that's what you're about to see with this episode of The Incredible Hulk. Robert Bruce Banner. Sometimes I don't get it perfect, but yeah, like, I just sort of grew up with that on a cartoon. Love Comic Tropes, Chris. Thanks for all your content and the passion you bring to it. Oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you to INT Ryan's Mind Knight. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Do you think you would ever do a room tour? Probably not, Jason, because here's the thing. It's pretty messy, to be honest. Like, all the sort of, like, comics and props and stuff that I use just sort of gather up there. It's not very well organized, because it's not a huge room. There's a lot that I could clear out, to be honest. There's, like, some clothes at this point that I should just donate to charity or something. But, I don't think it would, like, I don't think it would, like, be that interesting, because it's just stuff, for the most part. It isn't like a studio, is basically what I'm trying to relay. If I ever could find an affordable place, I would prefer to start doing this more like a at a small studio that I could just always have a little bit of space for where I sit, a little place for like editing, a little place for this, that, and the other. Yeah, clean the house and do a tour. Yeah, you'd like that, wouldn't you, Chrissy? Is Steve Rude an influence on your style? I really can't say that he is. No. I'm not overly familiar with Steve Rude. I'm aware of Nexus, and I've seen like a documentary on him. I know his work, but I can't claim to be super knowledgeable and passionate about Steve Rude as an artist. So no, I wouldn't count him as an influence. That said, we probably share some of the same influences, that's for sure. And I'm, of course, he's probably a million times better than I'll ever be. But Steve, I like Alex Toth. I think that Toth is probably an influence for Steve Rude. I would have to imagine. Interesting question. I watched Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends before I read the comic and was shocked by the contrast. Yeah, it's pretty different what they did with that. But boy, what a banger of a theme song. Maybe the best Spider-Man theme song. That's how it went. That's not just me being weird. That's how the theme song went. Oh, that taste is honestly still a bit in my mouth. Give me a sec. I need to still try to clear this out. This is horrible. Horrible. That taste ain't going away. That was a mistake. Oopsie. Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Oh, that was a good theme song. Everybody knows Spider-Man, Spider-Man, but Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends has a real great theme song. It's definitely of its time, but I think it's cool. Look up the Italian Spider-Man theme from the 80s. I think I've seen that before. Well, maybe I'm thinking of an Indian one, to be honest. You know what actually is my favorite Spider-Man theme now that I think of it, though? It's the Japanese one. Yeah, 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 wow. Yeah, yeah, wow! Look that one up if you've never seen it before. I am sorry, 60s. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll look it up, Steve. I'll look it up. I'd like to recommend the film Checchetto. Checchetto, huh? Huh. I don't think I know it. Is it Japanese? I recently picked up Team America 1 through 3 at my comic shop due to your recent video. It was interesting. I hope you didn't pay more than like $1 or so an issue. X-Men animated series had 2 Japanese openings and those were great. Okay. Japanese Spider-Man has an incredibly good theme. I say that with full seriousness. It does. It's cool. It's catchy. It's good. Hopefully this is starting to get a little bit of definition to it. I'm having fun. I can honestly say that. Let's see. It is Japanese. I've been going insane trying to get that through, but YouTube would not let me for some reason. I really don't know why, man. I'm sorry, but at least it got through, right? I got the issues for free since I'm the manager. I definitely wouldn't want to pay for those. Yeah, it's not great. Is Shanna even in the comics? Are you talking about Shanna the She-Devil? Oh, somebody said Shanna the Jungle Queen, but it's Shanna the She-Devil. I'm trying to remember the last time she showed up in the comics. She does pop up occasionally. I can't remember off the top of my head the last time Shanna was in the comic, but she shows up every once in a while. I feel like the last big thing she had was when Frank Cho did that comic about her that wasn't in continuity. And he originally drew her completely naked across the whole miniseries, but then Marvel was like, no, that's a little too extreme. So he had Frank Cho go back and draw like a little bikini on her in every panel. I've seen the pages, though. They're probably out there somewhere online, I bet. Where he legit just drew a comic with this naked woman fighting dinosaurs. It's like a whole book of just nothing but that. And, yeah. He just put it out there what he likes. I think Shanna is married to Kazar and they have a son. They do. They do. Are there any resources you can recommend for a new reader to learn the elements of comics art? I'm loving Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics, and I'd love to learn more about art and specifically comic art. First place I would direct you would have been Scott McCloud's Understanding Comics and his whole series. Other things for Understanding Comics, that is probably going to be the most in-depth one, first of all. That is the most in-depth one. But there are supplementary materials that can help. How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way with John Buscema, written by Stan Lee, but, art by John Buscema, is going to teach you a couple good fundamentals about, how comics can work best. So that's a recommend. Scott McCloud has a few books, first of all, so he's got some other books in that series. Recommend those. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little stumped after that, to be honest. I know I've come across some, but a lot more for like writing than like for drawing. The Mets gave me depression. Your stream reversed it. That's what I do. Specifically for Mets games. I was created in a lab by the Mets owners to fight depression amongst Mets fans. As to how successful I've been, well, that's for history to judge. But yeah, I was created in a lab by the owners of the Mets, just to try to cheer up people that were rooting for them, which I can't recommend. I can't recommend being a Mets fan. It's going to lead to heartbreak. What was the Mets mascot? Was it literally called Mr. Met, and it was just a guy with a baseball for a head? Am I remembering that right? I think I am. Framed Ink by Marcos Mato Mestre. Comics and sequential art by Will Eisner. That's a very good one, MF. Thank you very much. That's a great recommendation. Joe Dent also said How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way. Steve Sorensen points out Cartoonist Kayfabe on YouTube. Joe Dent says The DC Guide to Inking by Klaus Janson has many great insights and jewels. Yeah, definitely. Comics and Sequential Art by Will Eisner is a really good recommendation, yeah. Thanks, Tyler. I appreciate having you here. Run into the shadows of the night. What did everybody have for dinner tonight? I need to decide what I want to have once I wrap this stream up. What should I either make or order? I'm terrible at deciding what I want to eat for dinner. It's the toughest thing for me to make a decision on for some reason. I'm just really, really bad at it. This entire channel is a Kingpin psyop to love the Mets. Yeah, that's it. There is Miss Met too. Oh, well, there's some diversity that we needed. Shanna versus Sheena. Who wins? I think Sheena came first, so I guess Sheena wins. Finished my leftover cheesesteak from Max's when I was at Philly. Okay. I had a doner kebab, but I don't know if they have those in America. Sometimes. Yeah, there's some various sort of like Persian type restaurants that will have it, but not near me, unfortunately. I had chicken from one of those meal kit services. You know, I've been thinking of trying one of those. Leftover rice, stir-fried, then mixed with pad thai sauce. Yum. Try to avoid rice, though. I'm trying to avoid as many carbs and sugars as I can. Here's another recommendation on a book about comics. It's called The System of Comics by Thierry Grosstein. Okay. Grilled chicken with tostones and tostones with salad. Okay. Toasted garbanzo beans, creamy lemon pasta, roasted broccoli. Joshua, are you a chef? Because that sounds nice. Mac and cheese. Sure. Classic. Sheena wins. Okay. HelloFresh, walnut oregano chicken. Ooh. Yeah, maybe I should check out HelloFresh. I think they approached me once as a potential sponsor, but I was trying to sort of like not do too many sponsorships at once, so I'm pretty sure I turned them down for at least now. But maybe I should look into them. I had rice and chicken with chicken stew. Good. You guys are honestly, like, overall, I'm impressed. These are some fairly healthy meals. I'm seeing a lot of, like, you know, chicken and things with vegetables. I'm impressed that people aren't just being like, I went to McDonald's. That's good. Like, you know, hey, we all do things like that sometimes. But it's nice to see some good suggestions mixed in that are, like, healthy and interesting and innovative. I don't say innovative, I say innovative. I hope that's not annoying. Let's see. Elsa Charretier on YouTube broke down a Deadly Class Wes Craig really well. The video is called Deadly Class, How Graphic Design Can Inform Page Layout. That sounds interesting. Chrissy ate peeps and an apple. Okay, that's one way to go. Let's see if we can get you something with a little more protein in it. I'm trying to give Snake Eyes a fair amount of black because, you know, Storm Shadow should be in pretty much all white, and I want there to be that contrast to sort of show who's who. But deciding exactly where to block out my shadows, I'm just not great at that. That's sort of a big part of what I'm trying to do with drawing on this show live, is figure out like where I should be putting those blacks, and when to feather and when to just, do like a straight line. Just hopefully make good decisions moving forward. Just trying to get better at inking with this show. It's a big part of what I'm trying to do. Thanks for being with me, though. Makes it a lot less lonely. I see him. He's so tall. What? Who? Cat appearance. What? Hey, little bean. Hey, look at you. Look who's there. Little bean, come here. Come here. He obviously came down because he was curious about me. What should I cook you, my darling? Ooh. Chrissy knows the way to my heart. I don't know yet, love. I'm having trouble deciding what I'm in the mood for. But I'm not going to be overly picky if there's anything available already. Your inks are so clean. I have a bad habit of chicken scratching a lot with my own line work. Well, sometimes that can look cool. I just only know how to do it like one or two ways. I don't know a lot of variety for how to ink my stuff. Yeah, I wish I knew more. But that's what I'm just sort of trying to figure out here as time goes on. As time goes on. Hey, kitty, are you gonna come see me or what? I guess he's having fun, just sort of like relaxing on top of Milo's old kitty condo, which I just can't quite bring myself to throw it out, I mean, Little Bean has his own kitty condo to play with upstairs. That one was my cat's, but I just have a hard time throwing it out and sort of knowing that's the end, So it's kind of cute to see Little Bean playing with it right now. Food is the way to a man's heart. Food is the way to anybody's heart. I'm tempted to just go grab that guy and hold him. Oh, he's so cute. So I was obviously going on for quite a while about how much I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once. Gave it like my strongest possible recommendation as far as movies go. Since we're talking about movies, what is the last great movie you saw? One that you were just like, it might have some problems, but overall you'd say, no, this is a great, great film. Like what's one you would give your ringing endorsement to? Because let's share. Let's see what we can learn from each other. You should check out Daniel Warren Johnson's live stream drawings. The pencils are nearly incomprehensible when he begins inking his work. It takes a lot of effort to pencil cleanly. Yeah, just to be clear, a lot of times what I do here is I have tried to draw from scratch and do a stream, and I end up becoming very, very quiet. I can't sort of do the two things at once. Once you draw enough, you sort of learn how to draw certain things with by muscle memory, but I'm not there. So I usually have to spend a little time before I actually start my live stream figuring out what I'm going to draw, and I sketch it out a bunch, and then I grab a light box here and I get it nice and clean. I should keep one of those sketches. Next time I'll try to remember to keep one of those sketches so I can sort of show you like my process a little bit more. And then so I clean it up with the pencils, and then I just can focus on just the inking while I talk to you, because I just can't quite do too many things at once personally. When I'm drawing, I have a very, very hard time separating anything. Yeah. So I've got a very different process probably than Daniel Warren Johnson, but boy, I love him. Okay, so some people giving recommendations. Pig. I want to see Pig with Nicolas Cage. Drive My Car. Absolutely loved it. Okay. Bullet. Yeah, Bullet's cool. Bullet's very cool. Memories of Murder. Haven't heard about that one. The Lighthouse. Garrett, I am so stoked for The Northman. I love Eggers movies. Yeah. The Witch was probably my favorite of his so far, but The Northman looks so good. The Night is Short, Walk on Girl. The Night is Short, Walk on Girl. Okay, I've never heard of that one. The Night is Short, Walk on Girl. Second, the excitement for The Northman. Lighthouse was awesome, very Cthulhu in a way. Hey, is my kitty coming to see me? If I do this kissy sound, sometimes he comes to see me. Last good movie I watched was Tick, Tick, Boom. You gonna come here? Hi. Gonna come here? Do you want to be famous on camera, bud? Trying to decide between me and Chrissy? He looked at me a couple times, like, he's coming to see you, Chrissy. Bullet is amazing. The Hills of San Fran are a big character in that film. Yeah. It's always cool when an environment sort of becomes a character in a film. I like that. Well, I almost convinced the cat to come see me, but like I say, that's sort of what makes him Chrissy's buddy over mine. He likes me, okay? He just will kind of always choose Chrissy over me, and that's okay. I do too. But I do wish I had a pet that just loved hanging out with me. It's a big ego boost. I watched The Outfit the other day. As in, like, based on the Parker story? The Parker novel? Or something else? Yay, I win, yeah. You like The Witch? I didn't like that movie very much, if at all. Oh, yeah. Totally loved it. Yep. Yeah, I don't think there's been a Robert Eggers production that I haven't loved. So The Northman just looks so cool. Looks very badass. We shall see. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. I have a dog in my lap right now. Well, I'm jealous. We should put a plate full of tuna next to your artwork, then he'll come hang out with you. Yeah, I can always bribe the animal. I guess I could also bribe an audience if I paid people to be here, but I don't want to bribe anything or anyone. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to do. It's me, Mario. Oh, it's me, Mario. Oh, life is so hard for Mario. I don't wanna do. You guys want to hear of a really funny podcast? It's not being made anymore, but boy, does it get my wholehearted recommendation. I love Robert Eggers. Super excited for The Northman. Cool. Morty Mario. Well, you're not far off there, MF. We had a sitcom here in the UK directed by an early Edgar Wright, starring Simon Pegg, called Spaced. I've seen Spaced. It's way cool and funny. I'm just watching my way through the 2 short seasons. I've got that on DVD somewhere. Yeah, Spaced is fantastic. Also has Nick Frost And shoot, I'm forgetting the name of the female actress in it, but it was great. I liked Spaced. About a guy who wants to become a comic book artist who works at a comic book shop. And he and this girl, like, just sort of lie to say that they're a couple so that they can get a flat together because it's a better price. And they don't really know each other at first. And they start to get to know each other. But it's really, like, visually bizarre. It's so good, so good. Adam did bribe you. Oh, Chrissy, you gave it away. So, a hilarious podcast, and unfortunately it's not being made anymore, but a hilarious podcast is the Grandma's Virginity podcast. And it was with Jackie... Oh, I can't remember Jackie's last name. But she's an animation director and producer and voice actress sometimes. Ryan Ridley, who's done a lot of TV writing and has a movie coming out that Kirkman's company Skybound is producing called Igor, about like the scientist from Dr. Frankenstein. And Jackie, Ryan Ridley, and Justin Roiland. And they just talk about whatever. They always have a guest. And Justin Roiland, if you don't know, is the creator of Rick and Morty. So he does a lot of goofy voices on the podcast. And they have supposed characters drop in with them all the time, including sometimes Super Mario. And he does it as sort of like a whiny, pathetic guy going, "Oh, I don't want to do..." Riv Wilson, thank you for the super chat. Just popping in to say, love the letters page video. Great information. Oh, thank you. That's really, really kind of you. Here's a few bucks. Get that cat some tuna. Well, we sort of joke, but I can spoil the cat with something. But he's older now, so we really can't give him tuna or anything with like a lot of protein. Too much protein would be pretty bad for him at this age, unfortunately. So we have to like have pretty careful diet. But since you said that it was for Little Bean, we'll make sure it goes to doing something that makes Little Bean's life happier. Thank you. Very kind of you. Very kind of anybody that donates a super chat. Like, it's the only reason I do this. No. Just want to say I appreciate it, guys. And gals. And all. Oh, jeez, Luigi. Oh, Luigi. Oh. I guess I'll take my money back then. No, I'm going to use it as the intended purpose. Well, you said specifically it has to be for tuna. Okay. Alright. Tuna it is. Little Bean, this guy wants you to eat some tuna. So you're gonna eat some goddamn tuna. But yeah, I seriously recommend, if you ever just want to like start laughing your butt off, check out the Grandma's Virginity podcast. It's pretty timeless because they just talk about goofy stuff and have a lot of fun, have a lot of laughs. Yeah, Morty Mario is not far off. Little Bean says thank you too. Ah, see? Look at that. Look at that. Catnip aftershave. You know what? Yeah, maybe we'll get him some sort of catnip or something like that. That could be fun for him. Could be fun. What do you think of that, kitty cat? How about some catnip? Cats on catnip are hilarious. Just saying. Here, I'm going to clean this drawing up. I'm going to use my traditional, trusty, kneaded eraser. Is this the longest stream so far? Oh, ha! I guess it has gone 2.5 hours. I usually go 2. No, I think I've done 3 hours before. But I am going to wrap it up, I guess. I've done all the news. I did the reviews. Looks like I've kind of finished this art. I guess I was having fun, and I felt like I was close to finishing the art. And if I don't finish the art on the live stream, you know, I'm really only doing it, like, as practice, so I never finish these otherwise. Like, if I pulled out any of the art that, you know, I've got stacked up here from previous streams, it's all going to be unfinished. So, yeah. Let's get this nice and cleaned up. I think he lost track of time. I did! I was having a great time today. I lost track of time. That's thanks to all of you. Wow. I'm surprised some of you were so patient and still hung out. Sometimes I'm like, oh, a bunch of people are leaving. I must have been going too long. I'm getting verbose. The picture looks really good, by the way. Oh, thank you. That's really nice of you. I'm happy with it. Could probably benefit from a background and some colors, of course. But, yeah. I'm pretty happy with this. Drew some characters that I liked. Feel like it's got some good impact there. Let me just, now that I'm looking at it, add just a little more here. So, your marching orders at this point are to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once and to listen to the Grandma's Virginity podcast. That is what you are now supposed to do. I love watching a live drawing. Cool! I think he's got poison gum high. That gum may have really, like, thrown me for a loop. That was not fun. That was not fun. It might have been entertaining to watch. I will just say, for me, that was no treat. But that's okay. I said I would do it for a certain amount, and somebody came through. So, thanks again, Adam. Adam Messenger, right? It's going to be hard to forget your name after what you did to me. Great show, Chris. Hopefully the gum saga is put to bed. That would be nice. I haven't been in the mood for drawing lately. I can understand that, Black Phoenix. I haven't really been super in the mood for doing, like, you know, my YouTube show lately, or going to work at my day job lately. I just have been very tired and depressed and burnt out. But I found that if I force myself to be busy, it's better than if I don't, because if I don't force myself to be busy, my depression can get really dangerously bad. So, trying my best to stay active. Well, I think I'm going to put some more black here to follow the contours of Snake Eye's face a little better. I think it just makes a little more sense. But I'm close to wrapping this guy up. Yeah. Yeah, I guess that's okay. Yeah. Looks like I missed erasing there. But that's about as good as I can do. Is this centered even? Thank you for being a good sport. Thank you for the super chat. It's appreciated. So there we go. There's my classic Snake Eyes Storm Shadow fight And you know what? Now that I look at this, there's no way this would be highlighted here. So I'm going to just black that out too. Excuse me. Trying to make all my corrections. Just can't stop. Just can't seem to stop. But I think that'll do it. Folks, you've helped make this one of my most fun live streams in quite a while. I had a blast. Thank you so much for being here. I'll say that to you. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to have some more water because I do still have a little bit of gum taste in my mouth. Sorry to drink out of a giant bottle like a savage, but I did not think ahead to plan to have a cup. The next several episodes I'm planning, and things can change and stuff, but I am planning on doing various artist introspectives. I feel like I haven't focused enough on certain artists lately. That was in the news that we were talking about this week, that like some critics aren't necessarily crediting artists enough. I mean, I always try to credit a creative team, but there's definitely certain artists that I'm currently researching heavily. And I do have one interview coming up with somebody who's been a longtime supporter of the channel and is a professional artist, so that should be fun. And I think that there'll be some good episodes. So thank you so much. For $50, a man ate old gum, which made a girlfriend slap her man. No, she's not going to slap me. She was encouraging it. Will the gum taste still be there by the next live stream? Oh, I don't think it's ever going to leave me, just to be clear. I'm excited, though, about the episodes that I'm making. It's a lot of work, so it's sort of intimidating in that regard. But I think that they're going to be really good. I think you're going to like them. And thank you so much for being here for this live stream. Next week, I'll be back to draw something else and do some reviews of whatever I've read in that week. So can't wait to share that with you. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a good night. Thanks for the suggestions for things like movies and what to eat tonight. I think I'm going to go take those to heart right now. Keep reading comics. And then if I hit stop on the stream now, it would actually cut things off because of a weird delay. So now I just sort of talk awkwardly for a little while. Just works out fantastic.